Welcome to CineMyles, the show for cinephiles. I'm your host, Miles Hughes. I'm joined tonight by my mum, Susan.
Hello.
And we just saw Manchester by the Sea, starring Casey Affleck and Michelle Williams, which has been getting a lot of Oscar buzz this year, so we thought we had to check it out. I'm not entirely sure whether I liked this film or not. It has a lot of really good elements to it. I thought the performances were all really, really strong.
Definitely.
There was a nice naturalism to the dialogue. Like, it didn't feel like movie dialogue at all. It just felt like...
very natural.
The way people talk, exactly. I think I left the movie sort of wondering what the point of it was, and we were sort of talking about that.
I'm not sure what the takeaway is, except that Paul Lee had a terrible experience in his life and could never recover from it. There's no real arc to the story. It was just, it felt flat. It felt like you started in one place and you ended somewhere else, and nothing really happened and nothing got any better. In fact, it just all got worse. And
so the basic setup is that Casey Affleck plays Lee, who's sort of a janitor handyman who lives in Boston. And his brother, Joe, passes away. He sort of finds himself having to take care of his nephew, who's Lucas Hedges is the actor. I haven't seen him in anything else, but he's very good, very believable. And most of the movie is about Lee sort of figuring out sort of the next step, both in terms of funeral arrangements, what they're going to do with the body, and what he's going to do, because the brother has appointed him as the guardian. But he does not want to live in Manchester because he has had a traumatic experience there, which we won't go into because it's
part of the story. It's a big part of the story.
It's a bit of a revelation, and it's definitely a gut punch moment. And when you realize what it is, you completely understand why he's kind of a nasty person to everyone. Not like going out of his way to be rude, but he's one of those people who, like, he has no patience for small talk. He doesn't really
can't do it.
Yeah, he
just can't do it.
You can tell, and this is why I think Casey Affleck's performance is really strong, is that even though it's very quiet, he doesn't necessarily do much, he doesn't have any big emotional moments, but you can just read on his face that he's just drained, that life has, done a number on him, and he's just tired and doesn't care.
He just can't live life is basically the premise. I think it might have worked better if you didn't actually find out what happened to him.
Maybe.
Until the very end.
Yeah, you do find out a lot earlier than I was expecting, because the first, 30, 40 minutes or so, you can tell it's something, but they leave you in suspense a little bit, and then you find out what it is, and it's pretty huge. But then the film doesn't really have anywhere to go after you learn that, and it sort of just rubs it in continuously at that point.
But because if that was the point, was like, this is the skeleton of the man because this is what happened to him. If that was the point of the movie, then it would have been better to do the movie and you're left wondering what on earth happened to this man that he can't live.
Yeah.
So to give it to you so soon and then you just watch him not being able to live just felt really...
well, punishing, both for him and kind of for the audience.
Yes.
Like, this is not a film that you're going to enjoy in any traditional sense. The revelation is the big one, but there's a number of pretty emotionally sort of devastating scenes.
The one with his wife.
Yeah. Michelle Williams plays his ex-wife, and she has a scene with him near the end. She's only in a few scenes in the movie, but I thought she
stole the ones she was in.
Oh, absolutely. It's successful in the sense that it's hitting you with the emotions that it's trying to. But I guess the problem that we both had is that there isn't much of a payoff. Like, without spoiling anything, the film doesn't feel like it resolves in any satisfying way.
Well, in fact, if you look at every single one of the characters, so there's the two brothers, and then there's their two wives, who are now ex-wives, and all four of them just go nowhere. Even though the ex-wives start new lives, it's clear they're just not successful in any way.
No, well, they've tried harder than Lee has to move on, but they
but they haven't.
It's clear in both of their cases that they haven't successfully moved on. I thought the whole weird subplot with, I guess, Joe's ex-wife, the nephew's mother,
And the fiance.
The fiance, who's played by Matthew Broderick in a really distracting cameo that doesn't really add much to the movie. I didn't think that whole subplot really... Like, I understand why it's there, because you need to address what's going on with the mother, but it didn't...
And why the son can't live with her.
Yeah. But it doesn't... I don't know. I guess, like most things in the film, it doesn't seem to add up to much of anything.
What was difficult for me is that it's obviously the son, who's a 16-year-old, who is the only one who has any sort of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Probably because of the way his father brought him up. But he clearly sees that although everyone's dancing around it, his mom is still definitely drinking. He's like the smart one. He's thinking ahead of how he wants to live and what he wants to do. And it's sort of like everyone gets in his way. Maybe that's the point, is that... The kid's
got it figured out.
And us adults who think we can be parents should maybe just get out of the way.
Apparently. Well, yeah, it's kind of just a movie
Interesting that you and I saw it together.
Yeah. Well,
are you trying to tell me something?
Well, because except for the brother who dies, most of the parents in the film are like ridiculously unsuccessful.
Awful.
And not even like, because they're necessarily bad people, but they just make boneheaded decisions.
Well, and they're just so incredibly stupid. Like,
yeah.
The mothers of the daughters who just assume they're doing math homework, no matter how long it takes for them to come out of the bedroom to come and have supper.
Maybe it was trying to replicate real life and sort of that feeling of sometimes things don't resolve and sometimes, you do just carry that grief for the rest of your life. I mean, it tries to end on a quasi-optimistic note. Sort of, in a way, ends where it begins.
And maybe that is the point.
Yeah, but it's such a long movie.
It is very long.
And it feels its length.
It does. And the music. We haven't talked about the music.
Yeah. Okay, so there are two things that really bugged me while I was watching it, because for the most part, the technical aspects were pretty on point. But I don't think either of us liked the musical choices. I don't know if there was a score, but there was just a lot of, like, hymns.
Yeah,
like
hymns
songs
in the background, the sort of hymns that you hear in very large... formal cathedral type places, and I didn't know if there was therefore some religious undertone that went over both of our heads.
The other thing that really took me out of it was the editing, and I don't know if you noticed this as much, but when he first goes to the hospital and he's talking to the guy George and the doctor, and it's just like these 3 or 4 characters standing in a hallway, but they're cutting around to like 10 different angles just with this single conversation, and it feels like you could have done the whole scene in a single take.
With one take, yes.
And there's some scenes that do that, and they feel a bit more powerful. I don't know. It just wasn't that interesting.
No.
Like, I don't feel like I necessarily gained anything from watching this film, except kind of feeling bummed out for 2.5 hours.
At the end of the day, the fact that we're struggling to really find anything interesting to say about it says it all.
Yeah. Well, I think, honestly, the only reason we're making as many excuses for it as we are is because it's got so much sort of Oscar buzz, and, it's 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's this huge critical darling, and it's going to win a bunch of awards, but I'll be honest, I don't really see what all the fuss is about. I don't think I'm ever going to watch it again.
No, I can't see me watching it ever again. Or even necessarily recommending it to anybody. I can't see what I would recommend. I mean, beautifully made, yes. Very well acted. They were just all real people.
Yeah.
But didn't need to sit and watch.
No, it's like...
real people doing real things with no real point.
I don't think I can really recommend it either, because it's not going to make you feel good.
Nope.
And at the end of the day, I feel kind of indifferent towards it.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things. Thank you so much, Mom, for joining me.
It's my pleasure.
And we'll see you all on the flip side. Have a good night.